Hello, and welcome to Eastgate Community Church. We are so glad you've joined us to listen to this message from our weekend encounter. We pray you are encouraged by what you are about to hear.
For us is always nearness, and so these, I really believe it's right on. Especially, I feel like he's just been already confirming it. So I feel like a little bit of a switch of a direction, but it's not. And so I just want to share something that's really, I believe, a key for us to engage with him. Pull this out. So we're gonna hit you from all different angles: the weird, the flags, the prophetic, the whiteboard, the word. We're gonna get everybody. Cool deal. Go on this side. Back in worship. I just wanted to share this real fast. This is out of Luke 24, and I'm going to read out of the Passion Translation. So if you know what that is, it's somewhat of a paraphrase, so it may be difficult for you to follow along in a regular translation, but it's Luke 24. I'm sorry, I think I said the wrong book. Luke 24. I'm just going to read some of these things and just go through this together, but I really feel like, and just a little explanation of what we just did, I feel like the Lord was saying we were going to, and I just didn't know how or when, but we were going to prophetically declare, make declarations that are like legislation, that are like laws. So I really believe what we just did, in one sense, not only is it just praise and worship, but it was a legal declaration in the spirit of different things that are going on. And so I feel like he took us kind of a little bit ahead, and we did some stuff, we did some work with him, and now we're going to come back and just look at a couple things that he's sharing, I believe, and what it really takes to not just make the prophetic declarations or to declare the legislation in the spirit, but also how to walk in it, how to walk fully in what we just talked about and what we just declared before the Lord. So I believe that was huge. That was a big deal. And if just what happens in the spirit when we do that's really interesting, and what we're engaging and what we're doing, and those things are just really awesome. And so we're not going to leave that. So that's why hopefully as we go, you'll understand kind of what we're flowing in. But this is Luke 24. It says, very early that Sunday morning, the women made their way to the tomb, carrying the spices that they had prepared. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Joanne, Mary, Jesus' mother. Arriving at the tomb, they discovered that the huge stone covering the entrance had been rolled aside. So they went in to look, but the tomb was empty. The body of Jesus was gone. They stood there stunned and perplexed. Suddenly, two men in dazzling white robes, shining like lightning, appeared above them. Terrified, the women fell to the ground on their faces. The men in white said to them, "Why would you look for the living in a tomb? He's not here, for he has risen. Have you forgotten what he said to you while he was still in Galilee? The Son of Man is destined to be handed over to sinful men, to be nailed to a cross. But on the third day he will rise again." At once they remembered the words. Leaving the tomb, they went to break the news to the 11 and to all the others on what they had seen and what they had heard. When the disciples heard the testimony of the women, it made no sense, and they were unable to believe what they heard. But Peter jumped up and ran the entire distance to the tomb to see for himself. Stooping down, he looked inside and discovered it was empty. There was only a linen sheet lying there. Staggered by this, he walked away, wondering what it could have meant. Later that Sunday, two of Jesus' disciples were walking from Jerusalem to Emmaus, a journey of about 7 miles. And they were in the midst of a discussion about all the events of the last few days when Jesus walked up and accompanied them on their journey. And they were unaware that it was Jesus walking alongside them, for God prevented them from recognizing him. Jesus says to them, "You seem to be in a deep discussion about something. What are you talking about, so sad and gloomy?" They stopped, and one named Cleopas answered, "Have you heard? Have you not heard? Are you the only one in Jerusalem unaware of the things that have happened over the last few days?" Jesus asked, "What things?" "The things about Jesus, the man from Nazareth," they replied. "He was a mighty prophet of God who performed miracles and wonders. His words were powerful, and he had great favor with God and the people. But 3 days ago, the high priest and the rulers of the people sentenced him to death and had him crucified. We had all hoped that he was the one who would redeem and rescue Israel. Early this morning, when some of the women informed us of something amazing, they said that they went to the tomb and found it empty. They claimed 2 angels appeared to them and told them that Jesus is now alive. Some of us went to see for ourselves and found the tomb exactly like the women said, but no one has seen him. Jesus says to them, "Why are you so thick-headed? Why do you find it so hard to believe every word the prophets have spoken? Wasn't it necessary for Christ, the Messiah, to experience all these sufferings and then afterward to enter into his glory?" Then he carefully unveiled to them the revelation of himself throughout the scripture. He started from the beginning and explained the writings of Moses and all the prophets, showing how they wrote of him and revealed the truth about himself. As they approached the village, Jesus walked on ahead, telling the men he was going on to a distant place. Yet they urged him to remain there and pleaded, "Stay with us, for it'll be dark soon." So Jesus went with them into the village, and joining them at the table for supper, he took bread and blessed it and broke it and gave it to them. And at once their eyes were open, and they realized it was Jesus. Then suddenly, in a flash, Jesus vanished from before their eyes. Stunned, the men looked at each other and said, "Why didn't we recognize it was him? Didn't our hearts burn with the flames of holy passion while he walked beside us?" He unveiled for us such profound revelation from the scriptures. They left at once and hurried back to Jerusalem to tell the other disciples. And when they found the 11 and the others all gathered together, they overheard them saying, "It's true, the Lord has risen from the dead. He even appeared to Peter." Then the 2 disciples told the others what had happened to them on the road to Emmaus and how Jesus had unveiled himself as he broke bread with them. While they were still all discussing this, Jesus suddenly manifests right in front of their eyes. Startled and terrified, the disciples were convinced they were seeing a ghost. Standing there amongst them, he said, "Be at peace, for I am the living God. Don't be afraid. Why would you be so frightened? Don't let doubt or fear enter into your hearts, for I am. Come and gaze upon my pierced hands and feet, and see for yourselves it is I standing here alive. Touch me and know that my wounds are real, and that I have a body of flesh and bone." We're going to read a little bit more, but it's just like, I love this because I don't give them a hard time. But this is just nuts. This is crazy. They are the ones who walked with Jesus for all these years, for these 3 years of his ministry and his life. They've seen the miracles. They've seen all the crazy stuff. They were face to face with him. A couple of them in this group that I just read about right here saw Jesus transfigured on the mountain, saw Moses, saw Elijah transfigured on the mountain. They saw all the stuff, all the bread, multiplying the fish, multiplying the thousands being fed, the thousands and thousands being healed, and demons cast out, and all these crazy these are the ones like we're talking about. They saw him like in the flesh. They walked with him, they talked with him. This is the same, one of the same that laid with Jesus, with literally heard Jesus' heartbeat. John laying with Jesus at the supper table with his head up against his heart. It was called the beloved. Like, these are the ones that we're talking about. And so I don't want to be hard on them, but this is a type and a shadow of us. Like, they walked with him, they talked with him, they saw him, they felt him, they touched him. Yet when the stuff starts happening different than what they understood, everything falls apart. Like, all of their understanding, all of their confidence, all of their reasoning, all of their everything starts falling apart. And it's just really, really interesting. I don't want to miss that, and I hope that we're injecting ourselves into this, because wherever we're at in this kind of deal, there's a difference between sometimes, and we're big about this, and we've been talking about it, like, I want to see Jesus. Like, I'm telling you, you can see him. And, what's the Greek word for see? It means to see. Like, there's nothing complicated. There's nothing, we don't have to theologically, doctrinal stuff our way around what that means. Like, we can see him. Like, he's real. We're made for him. We've been redeemed and set free, and he dwells inside of us, the fullness of God inside of us. So he's the hope of glory in us. We can see him. Yet they saw him. Like, they're walking with him. And there's a big difference I just want to get to a couple of things that you show me out of this. There's a big difference in even seeing and experiencing like they did, connecting their experience and what they see with their heart and what they can actually believe. And they're still in a state of unbelief. They're still in a state of struggling. Like, okay, they're talking about this. The women see him at the tomb. He appears to Peter. The ones on the road to Emmaus, like, they know this is not conjecture. They know, like, that when the Lord finally opens up their eyes in all these moments, they know they've seen him. Mary sees him in the garden, even though she thought he was a gardener, right? But so they're seeing him, and yet in this moment that we catch him in here, it says, while they were still discussing this, what? Discussing what? Seeing Jesus, like actually seeing him, like actually being with him. They were discussing all of this. Jesus suddenly manifests right in front of their eyes. Startled and terrified, the disciples were convinced they were seeing a ghost. And just the point is, like, when we can't believe, it's like how far our minds and our souls will go to not actually be able to apprehend what we're really seeing. Like, they were more apt to believe that the one standing in front of them was a ghost and not Jesus, even though they had multiple visits. You get what I'm saying? Like, how, like, what are you talking about? Like, you walked with him, you knew him, you smelled him, y'all were connected, you knew each other, yet he's still standing in front of you, and it's easier to understand that he would be a ghost than Jesus. And it's not because they were stupid, and it's not because they didn't have relational experience with him, but there was something still after 3.5 years that had yet to be unlocked on the inside of him. After Jesus responds to him, it says the disciples were ecstatic, yet dumbfounded, unable to fully comprehend what was just happening in front of them. Knowing that they were still wondering if he was real. And I love just the compassion and the practical, as we'll see, of Jesus understanding where we're at in the midst of this deal. He's revealed in front of them, the resurrected, already been before the Father, transfigured in a heavenly body, Jesus standing right in front of them, and he understands that they don't quite get it yet. Even like after all the teachings, all the conversations, all the miracles, there's just something yet that they've been able to grasp and get. It says, knowing that they were still wondering if he was real. And you know what it really goes down to, and I think what this is one piece of it, but they're hitting up against a religious understanding that even in the midst of the 3.5 years of seeing Jesus, they still held out. Even though he told them he was going to die, he was going to go to the cross, he's going to be buried for 3 days, you destroy this temple and be remade in 3 days. Even though he told them all that stuff, they still thought he was going to come and fulfill the Jewish stereotypical redeemer role that they had understood. He's going to overthrow the Roman government, and he was going to reestablish and redeem Israel. I mean, even his own followers, those ones that are closest to him, still were under the delusion in the deception of a religious understanding and couldn't yet grasp or understand what is happening, like, in their midst. Does that make sense? Like a little bit of a reframing. And we do this all the time. We have these things all mixed up in our heads right now, but it's like how dangerous religious understandings are. Empty religious understandings, because they're seeing the manifestation right in front of them, and they just can't grasp, they can't deal with what's happening, because they're so tied up in a system that looks a certain way. It's just crazy to me. And I mean, we're right in the middle of so many of it, and it's so intertwined and it's so interwoven. Because we'd say if Jesus would just show up, everything would be different, everything would change. And it's true. I mean, he does change stuff when you see him and when he shows up before you. But we have got to deal with these like religious garbage systems that are undercutting and keeping us from actually engaging with him. Jesus says to him, here, let me show you, give me something to eat. So they handed him a piece of broiled fish and some honeycomb, and they watched him eat it. That's got to be a strange experience. And then he said to them, don't you remember the words that I spoke to you when I was still with you? I told you that everything written about me would be fulfilled. So he's starting to dig into this thing just a little bit. He's saying, it is fulfilled. It's just not what you thought it was. I told you that everything written about me would be fulfilled, including all the prophecies from the law of Moses through the Psalms and the writings of the prophets, that they would all find their fulfillment in what has happened. This is our key verse tonight. It just shook me whenever I read it the first time, and he just opened it up. Verse 45, then he supernaturally unlocked their understanding to receive the revelation from the scriptures. And he said to them, everything, this is Jesus, everything that has happened fulfills what was prophesied of me. Christ, the Messiah, was destined to suffer and rise from the dead on the third day. Now you must go into all the nations and preach salvation's grace and forgiveness of sins so that they will turn to me. Start right here in Jerusalem, for you are my witnesses and have seen for yourselves all that has transpired. And I will send the fulfillment of the Father's promise to you. Or I will send the kingdom, I will send the Holy Spirit to you. So stay here in the city until the mighty power of heaven falls upon you and wraps around you. I just want to do a little bit of study real fast. This is the translation that's probably most of your Bibles. Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. Luke 24 verse 45. And so I didn't go through and write all the Greek stuff down, but this is how I like to dissect and just deal with scriptures. And so when the Lord, highlights something to me, it's like, whoa, okay, I'm gonna know a little bit more about what's going on. I just go through and word by word, just start reading. What does that word mean? What's the cultural context of this word and this word and this word and this word? So if you were here last week, we talked about the living word. And so it's kind of I didn't intend on it being like this, but it's almost like the flip side of last week. Last week we were talking about logos, which, lots of people talk about means the Bible, like the Bible. Those people probably wouldn't think this is the Bible, but like a King James Bible. And it's really not. I mean, it's wrapped up in that. But logos is a living word. Logos is Jesus. Logos is not a book. It's not a transcription of things. It is a person. It is Jesus. It is God. It's the eloquence or the language of the thoughts of God, and that's what Jesus is. The Hebrews puts it this way, or is it Colossians? Either way, that Jesus is the visible image of the invisible God. And God's not invisible. It's not like he can't be seen in any form. But in this dimension, in this reality, he's spirit, and we're in bodies right now. We're spirit as well, but we got to walk in him and grow in him and mature in him to be able to see into the spirit. But Jesus comes as a manifested, that no matter who you were, saved or not, you could see a visible form, the visible perfect representation of the very nature and character and likeness of the Father, because they're three in one, right? So the Logos is the living word. And so if you're here last week, this is graphe. This is literally, it means scripture, so things that are written down. And so it's just a little side deal. But then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. This word open's really interesting because there's a key. They understood all the stuff. They had all the experiences. They had all the knowledge. They had seen things that no one else had seen, like the three up on the mountain. They had seen stuff that had been yet to be told to everybody else, like seeing a transfigured human, seeing someone who had been dead for, hundreds or not, maybe 1,000 or so years. They're seeing Moses and Elijah. And this is not like 50 years ago these dudes died. This is a long time, And so they had all the experiences, they had all the knowledge, but they just couldn't get what was going on. And I really feel like, we're pursuing after him. We're pursuing after things of the Spirit as a community. We're pursuing after encounter with him, and just more than what we've known, more than what we've experienced, more than what we've grown up with in church. But it's just so important, like as we're pursuing after supernatural encounters and healings and signs and wonders and miracles, all that stuff. You can see all that stuff. You can see Jesus and still not be able to connect with who he really is. That's real. That's real. Because I'm talking to you about 11 and more that spent years with Jesus in the natural, got to watch it unfold, got to see this, and they're still struggling to connect. So it's just like, Lord, what does it take? Because what does it take to just connect with you? Like, what does it take to really begin to know you? We've talked about it before, Matthew 7:21. Many will say to me in that day, they've done so many different things, prophesy, cast out demons, blah, 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 in your name. But Jesus will say, depart from me, for I never knew you. His desire, and that's not like a bad guy, angry verse, that passage isn't, because the Father's heart, that's always represented and echoed in Jesus, because it's his heart as well, is desire, it's nearness, it's closeness, it's no proximity. We were talking about it the other day, the patience of God, and how Tom was talking about the patience is really long suffering, like the sufferings of Christ. Like he is long suffering, and he is patient with us. And I was just thinking about that the last couple of days, and I think I've always translated that as he's patient in my weakness, and he's patient with me in the midst of my sin, and he's patient with me because I don't have it all together yet. And he is, no doubt. But you know what I really think the suffering part of that patience comes from? Distance. I don't think he's so concerned with my weakness and with my imperfection because he saw it all before I ever knew it even existed. He's concerned, and the suffering comes from the distance that those things produce. And not only just sins, but misunderstandings. Not only just sins, but what they're struggling with at this moment. I've seen, I know, I've heard, I've tasted, I've touched, I've felt. Yet there's still a distance because Jesus is standing there and they can't understand it. And they're more likely to think that he's a ghost instead of their friend. His long suffering, his patience is because of distance. He does not want distance. That's the lie. That's the great conspiracy, the great lie of religion, is God's angry with you and he's mad with you and you need to go fix yourself and you need to go clean that up. And oh my gosh, did you see that thing? You need to go fix that. And it's a never-ending loop of I'm messed up and I'm broken, when the answer is nearness. Because when you see him, when you behold him, when you gaze him, you become like him before you get fixed. Then he opened their minds to understand the scriptures. This word open, I didn't write down the Greek because it doesn't matter because we don't speak Greek. But the meaning of it isn't just like opening a door, but it's by dividing or drawing asunder, like the firstborn opening up the womb. Yeah, there's some pain over in that side of the room. If you've ever experienced birth or if ever viewed birth, it's a powerful experience, and it is gross and bloody and intense, to say the least. That's what when he's talking about opening, it's not a magic wand of like Holy Spirit fairy dust where your minds are open. It literally means like giving birth for the first time. Yeah. Destruction. Oh my God, why did it have to happen that way? What is happening right now? This is not okay. It's opening like birthing. And it just changed it up a little bit for me, because it's not just waiting for him to come and like open, but it's like, like everything getting torn up, stuff going everywhere. I should remember when Rachel.
Be careful what you're about to say.
No, it's just when he's coming and they're like, he's close, and then you can barely see his head and you're like, oh my God, he's never coming out. Like there is no way that's about to happen. It's an interesting experience. It's awesome, I guess, but it's intense and it's painful. And so as we are declaring the things that we're being set free from this evening, there's a process on the backside of that stuff. And I think we can get short-circuited on the process of living in the declarations that we made because of the pain of the process that it takes to get your mind opened up, to get your soul opened up, to really be able to to walk in, to possess, to dwell in your own reality of what you were just talking about. I'm free from this thing. Well, that takes an opening. It takes a tearing. It takes a rending of what is there to come through, to bring an understanding, to bring truth. And so you open up their minds. Their minds is an interesting word. It's minds as well, but it also speaks more in the Hebrew understanding. It would be like your soul. And so it's things like your thoughts, your feelings, your purposes, your desires. These four main things flow from soul issues or soul gates. And here's some of them right here. A soul gate would be your conscience, your reasoning, your imagination. A soul gate would be your mind, the unconscious, subconscious, and the conscious. A soul gate would be your emotions, your choice, and your will. And these are the things that are being opened as we're going into truth and as we're going into the understanding really of who Jesus is. And again, these aren't just experiences, these aren't just encounters, but this is nearness. And to be near, it takes a willingness, it takes an agreement with the one that you're walking with. And I think the Lord's, there's no separation. He paid the price. The judgment was satisfied at the cross. Everything's been done. There's no reason for separation anymore. But for us to walk with him, we have to be in agreement with him. And he's not pushing you away, but your inability to agree with him about who you really are will drive you away from him. And this is what we're struggling with. And that's probably the things that we declared our freedom from tonight, they're already done. Like, we understand that the price has been paid. There's no price yet to be paid for what we were talking about, but it's the agreement, it's the understanding, it's the opening for us to be able to like ascertain, to grab it, to make it our own, and to believe it enough to stay in it so that we can stay in a place of nearness. So open up our minds, our soul, any one of these different things to understand the scriptures. To understand is really interesting because where this opening word talks about a rending, a cutting, a dividing. Last week we talked about the word, the living word, the logos of God is alive and active, sharper than any double-edged sword. The ability to come in and divide between the soul and the spirit is very interesting. This is the same concept. It's actually not the same Greek word, but that's okay. It's the same concept of division or bringing something asunder, like tearing something from something else. That's what's happening here. But to understand isn't just what we would think in our understanding or the way we would use the word, but it's to set or to bring together like concrete or like glue. And so if you've ever poured something like concrete, you pour it, but you don't just start walking on it right when you pour it, but you pour it and then you let it sit, you let it harden, you let it come together, you let all that stuff happen on the inside. So the understanding is to actually bring together and to set, to bring together, to join together in the mind or the soul. So it's opening, it's tearing, rending something for this thing to come into agreement, and then the understanding is like the solidification or the locking in of those things that were brought in. It's interesting too that this word is often directly connected with the fruit of wisdom or wisdom herself. And so when he opens up their minds to understand, it's like he's opening up this place in their soul for wisdom to come in and be seated to guide through these different issues and to walk with you through these different things. And like we talked about, the scriptures are literally the word. And so last week we talked about the living word, and you can read the Bible all day long and not know him. And I think this is the other side of this, is we need to know, but you can also see him. You can also experience him and encounter him and not know him. If your understanding or your soul doesn't get opened up to come to a place where you can believe him. And this is a supernatural thing. This isn't try harder. This isn't read more. This isn't buy the next book or buy the old book. This is something that Jesus does in the disciples and in his disciples' process. That was 3.5 years into walking with him, but it's something that they needed because they couldn't just keep going on with what they knew from their religious past and then what they knew from their new experiential present. But they had to have the supernatural thing come in and bring to a conclusion all the stuff that had happened, which tore down some things, which opened up a lot of this stuff inside of them, and then set truth so they could actually begin to understand and believe who Jesus is. And I think not only, like we've talked about the baptism of the Holy Spirit that happens in Acts, which I think is huge to be a transformative event in a disciple's life, but I think we miss these types of things, which, I wonder how much of this isn't in that same process. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be baptized in the Holy Spirit, but we need this opened up on the inside of us for us to be able to really, really walk with him. And so that's as far as I got with everything. So I like to do, what time is it? Oh yeah, we're doing good. Like I said, we shifted things up a little bit. I like to go into just some worship and just do business with him. Like, this may be like a strange service type of deal, but I really felt like the Lord was saying, because I kept asking, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? I just felt like he's saying, like, if you just give me space for a second, like bring some of this stuff, bring this key, and then give everybody space, and then he just wants to meet with us. And so maybe we go through these different things, these places of the soul that he wants to open up and do business in that thing. Maybe what you were bringing, declaring, maybe there's some more deals that he just wants to speak into that. But I just want to, in whatever way that looks like for us, I don't even know. He's just going to lead us. The Holy Spirit's going to lead us into just asking him to open us up in this way. And maybe that's something that happens tonight. Maybe it's something that's a process and we get to walk it out. Maybe, I don't think it's a one and done kind of deal. There's constantly so many things that he's doing. But I believe there's a true supernatural thing that he just wants to do, that he wants to open up on the inside of us, that's going to take us to a new place as individuals to really connect with him. And I really feel like it has a lot for most of us probably to do with our identity, and these things that we're declaring freedom from, because it's already been paid. Like, we could go on all night about that. It's already been done. The price has already been paid. you are under the judgment of God, and his judgment is, I love you, I purchase you, I want to be as close to you as possible. Like, that's the judgment of God that we're under right now. And he really is good, and he really is better than what we think. And so I think that has a lot to do with this. I think we know it, and like, I could preach it, but when it comes to, when the rubber meets the road, sometimes it's difficult, and it's just like, oh, I still don't believe yet. I still don't know, and there's nothing I can do to make that happen. And so I just want to give them space. We got tables and pens, we have floors, we have other rooms, whatever, and just engage with him. Let's just ask him how he wants to do that, what he wants to do, and just be totally open, because that's the one thing I felt like is there was so much of an invitation for us this evening to come into a new place with him. I'm not going to begin to define that for you, but I knew he said it was for everybody, the newest to the oldest, like the most experienced to the least experienced, like no matter what you've done or accomplished, like there was an invitation from the Lord this evening to open up some spaces and places in us to begin to set and establish and ground truth in the inner man, so that we can stop wrestling with things that had already been purchased and paid for, and we can begin to walk with him in a new level of nearness. And so we're just going to go into some worship. I'm going to move this like over here so it's out of the way, and you guys, if you have something, go ahead and feel free. We're just going to have this time, and if anyone else has anything, get with these two guys. We're just going to go for it for a little while and give him some room to move. So Father, Lord, we just release you in our lives to do whatever you want. Lord, to come to us, to reveal yourself to us, Lord, to reveal us to us, Lord, to do some healing and shifting and changing, Lord, to bring some tearing, some opening up, some rendering, some pulling off old things, Lord, to make room and to bring us into a position where we can actually begin to walk in truth and walk in understanding, Lord, because you're all about relationship. You're all about nearness, Lord. You're all about face to face, heart to heart, no distance in between, no separation ever, 24/7 for all of eternity, face to face with you. If we're honest with ourselves in so many ways, we stiff arm you because of incorrect beliefs, or things that have exalted themselves and set themselves up against you. And Lord, we just ask for you to come in your goodness and your kindness and your gentleness and your power and your fathering, to come and remove things, Lord, that separate us from you, and just bring us even closer, Lord, close like it scares us to be close to you. In your name.
Yeah, I just believe this is a word of wisdom for us tonight, and word of wisdom is prophecy. And while I was sitting back there and we were just praying and seeking the Lord, I just saw the word vicarious living, and specifically I felt like it's in regards to relationships. Out of our brokenness, we relate with people, and we sometimes look for people to meet our unexpected needs that we may not know we have, but that's how we connect with people. And I really feel like the Lord is purifying relationships, purifying your connections, purifying your motives behind why you connect with one another, because so much of seeing Jesus is seeing other people out of a pure heart. And I just feel like there's like a realigning in relationships all the time, but specifically for people, you in here, that maybe you're feeling a tension in your relationship. Maybe you feel in certain relationships you feel inferior. If you feel inferior, then there's something there that you're in that relationship, and there's some stuff there that's not good. It's not holy. And if there's, we form these unholy alliances with people, and sometimes it's just an adjustment how you see yourself, an adjustment how you can see them, and just purifying that relationship. And some relationships that in this room that you guys have, you just got to surrender those. You just have to let them go, and not hold on to them. Because I believe so many times we miss the promotion of the Lord because the Lord's trying to separate us, and we're holding on out of a fear, and we want to control because there's that fear inside of you. And you know, on the flip side of that, the Lord's trying to bring you out of something and into something greater. And so I just want to encourage you, if that's, you know, just bring that before the Lord. You know, we should always be doing this, but it changes every day, and your relationships change. And a while back, the Lord told me, you know how you steward relationships, and he began to tell me you steward the connection that actually makes the relationship. And connections change all the time. And so I feel like there's a grace and understanding to come tonight for all of us to make sure our relationships are pure, our connections are pure, and the way we can really move and accelerate with the Lord and let that flow into our relationships. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you for joining us. If you would like to know more about our community, please visit our website at eastgatetx.org.